He slapped his passport down. Mine stayed in my hand. The airline agent looked between us, confused. 3 tickets to New York, right? She asked. No, my son cut in. Just 2. He turned slightly, not looking at me. She's staying. She'll figure it out. My fingers tightened around the strap of my old leather bag. The one with the scuffed corner and broken zipper I kept meaning to fix. His wife didn't say a word. She just stepped forward, offered her own documents, and smiled at the agent like I wasn't standing inches away. I opened my mouth, then closed it. The agent hesitated. Ma'am, your name was part of the original itinerary, but it says here your segment was flagged 3 days ago. She scrolled, tapped, paused. The system says your ticket was canceled at 11:12 p.m. last Thursday. That was the night they went out and left me in the hotel lobby. I'd waited for hours. They said the dinner ran long. The man behind us in line cleared his throat. The woman behind him stared at my sandals. I stepped back, nodded. It's fine. My son turned, gave me a glance like a manager dismissing an underperforming employee. Enjoy Dubai, Mom. Maybe some rest will help you reset. Then he walked away. His wife followed, pulling the carry-on I bought her for Christmas. No backward glance. No goodbye. I stood still, counted each step they took toward security. Watched them disappear through the crowd. My chest rose once slow and full. No tears, no break. I turned, adjusted the strap on my shoulder, and walked in the opposite direction, toward the exit, toward whatever came next. I sat down on a bench near the terminal doors and opened my bag. First the phone. Not there. I dug deeper. Wallet gone. My passport, which I always kept, zipped in the inside pocket, was missing. I dumped everything out, tissues, receipts, a hotel pen, 2 cough drops. That was all. I held the empty bag in my lap. My hands stayed still. My breath didn't. They'd planned this. This wasn't a mistake. They left me here not just without a seat, but without a name. I folded the bag shut, slid everything back inside like nothing had happened. The world around me kept moving. Wheels rolled. Voices called out. Mine stayed silent. Then he appeared. A man in a dark suit, silver tie, leather shoes that didn't scuff. He didn't smile, didn't lower his voice. Pretend to be my wife, he said. My driver is watching. You'll be safe. I didn't speak. Just looked at him. He didn't look away. He reached for my elbow gently and said one word, Mrs. Ward. I hadn't told him my name. I hadn't said a single thing. Still I stood, walked beside him, felt the warmth of the afternoon hit my skin as we stepped outside. A black car pulled up. The door opened. We got in. Neither of us looked back. I sat straight, eyes forward, hands folded. No questions. Outside the window, the road twisted between glass towers and sand. I kept watching, like if I blinked it might all vanish. The air smelled faintly of citrus and heat. He didn't speak again. Neither did I. I sat in that silence, not because I was afraid, but because for the first time in days, no one was asking me to explain why I existed. We turned left at a roundabout. The buildings grew smaller, farther from the airport, closer to something else. I pulled out the chair, sat down last. They were already halfway through the first course, laughing over something I hadn't heard. The server placed a napkin in my lap. I nodded, said thank you. My daughter-in-law lifted her glass, caught the waiter's eye. Another round. She glanced at me, then waved her hand. Water's fine for her. She's tired. Jet lag. Doesn't do much anyway. The table laughed. I reached for the water. The glass was wet, sweating onto the white linen. I held it without drinking. To my right, my son was scrolling through something on his phone. He didn't look up. One of the guests leaned over. How do you like Dubai, Mrs.? Before he could finish, my daughter-in-law cut in. She's been resting. A lot. Not really her pace, you know. Another laugh. My plate came last. Some kind of seared fish too fancy to taste like anything. They'd ordered for me. When the server brought out the wine, he set a full glass in front of every guest. In front of me, nothing. No one noticed. I gripped the cold water glass tighter. Focused on the condensation. My breath stayed low, steady inside my chest. They talked real estate, investments. When the contract finalizes, someone said we'll be flying every quarter. My son nodded like a man who'd earned it. During dessert, he leaned toward his wife, voice low, but careless. Once this deal closes, we won't need her anymore. She didn't respond. She just reached across the table and touched his hand. I sat very still. Fork untouched. Cake untouched. Words untouched. The server returned, collected the plates. Mine had barely been touched. I asked quietly for the receipt. He looked surprised, then handed it over. I folded it, once slid it into my purse. They never asked about it. They assumed I would pay, and I did. Without comment, without expression, I stood slowly, letting the chair scrape just slightly too long against the floor. I set the plate down, walked one step back, watched. The room shimmered with gold lighting, clinking glasses, practiced smiles. My daughter-in-law leaned in close to a man I didn't recognize. Hair slicked back suit, too crisp. She can't even speak Arabic, she said, smirking. She's just here because we couldn't leave her home alone. He laughed sharp and loud. Others joined in. I didn't move. I didn't blink. One woman looked over at me briefly, then looked away just as fast. My name wasn't mentioned again. The food sat untouched. A small plate of lamb, scattered herbs, something creamy. I turned from it, walked toward the far end of the room. Behind me, more laughter. One voice louder than the rest. My son's. I'd learned to recognize the laugh he used when he wanted people to like him. As I neared the doorway, a man in a black blazer stepped in front of me. The host, quiet, polite, hesitant. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said in English. "You're not on the guest list. Should I?" He paused. I looked him in the eye, shook my head slowly. No need. Then walked past him out into the corridor. The hallway was cool, empty. Just the hum of distant music through heavy doors. I pulled out my phone, pressed open the old app hidden in the notes folder, typed 2 words. Folder 3. Now. I put the phone away. No rush, no panic, just steps. Down the stairs, past the guests who never noticed I'd gone. I unlocked the briefcase. Click. Click. Set it on the table. Flipped it open. Red folder on top. I pulled it out first. I spread the documents one by one, lined them neatly, edge to edge. Revocation of power of attorney. 2 bank account ledgers, domestic and international. Signed transfer receipts. A printed transcript with timestamps. At the bottom, the investment agreement. Joint property. Multiple signatories. I found the name. Victor Harland, my late husband's old business partner. The one who'd vanished from the family events. The one who once sent a card long after the funeral with no return address. His signature was clear. Fresh. Notarized in Dubai. Clause 14. In the event of coercion, absence, or altered consent from any stakeholder, all accounts and transfers are to be suspended until verified by secondary authorization. That was me. I was the clause. I was the backstop they thought had rusted shut. I picked up the transcript. Pressed play on the phone beside me. Voices. My son. She won't even know what she's signing. Just smile, hand her the paper, and act like it's routine. Click. I turned it off. I breathed. Deep. Even. My hands didn't shake. Not when I placed the recordings in a labeled envelope. Not when I clipped the revocation to the top of the folder. They thought I'd stayed silent. They didn't realize I'd been listening. I folded the last page and slid it back into the red folder, clipped the case shut. Then I stood, walked to the window, watched the skyline flicker in the evening haze. I pressed my thumb to the screen, opened the message. Dinner tonight. Just business. You should come. Smile. No drama. No greeting. No punctuation. Just expectation. They always told me to smile, to be supportive, to stay quiet. I wrote back. Of course. I didn't ask what for. I didn't need to. I ironed the shirt myself, buttoned it up to the collar, slipped the recorder under my sleeve, tucked the wire flat against my wrist. It clicked once, then stayed silent. I arrived last. The table was set for 6. I was 7th. They made space without comment, moved glasses, shifted a plate. The waitress asked what I'd like to drink. Before I answered, my daughter-in-law spoke. She'll have still water. It's better for her. Then she turned back to the others. Her voice softened. We're finalizing paperwork tonight. She just needs to sign. I didn't look up. Just folded my napkin. Waited. The plates came. Expensive. Showy. I ate slowly. Small bites. No mess. No rush. The document appeared with dessert. My son pushed it toward me like a birthday card. Just standard stuff, he said. For the investment transfer. I read the title. Didn't flip the pages. He laughed. Come on, Mom. Don't make it weird. She leaned in, smiled too tightly. It's just a formality. Nothing changes. I picked up the pen, held it for a moment, then set it back down. I'd like to read it first. Carefully. Silence. He chuckled. Of course. Take your time. I nodded, smiled. Thank you. They relaxed. Thought they'd won something. I signed nothing. Took no copy. Just watched. Just listened. Just recorded. And when the waiter brought the bill, I was already standing. I signed twice. Stamped once. The notary slid the paper aside, careful with the ink. Across from me, Victor Harland nodded, once firm, without small talk. The authority over the investment account was no longer shared. It was mine. The new clause sat cleanly in Section 5. In the event of removal, silence, or absence of the primary stakeholder, all assets will be frozen, pending in-person confirmation. My name couldn't be erased without consequence now. Not by anyone, not quietly. The notary flipped the final page, pointed. Emergency designation. I handed him the card I'd already prepared. He scanned it quickly. His eyes paused. She's in the States, yes, I said. And notification? I shook my head. No, not yet. He didn't ask why. Victor stood, shook my hand. It's done, he said. Everything's secure. Then he left. No dinner, no drink, no delay. I stayed behind a moment. Let the stillness settle. Breathed through my nose. Slow, even. The office smelled like ink and dust and air conditioning. Outside, the sun had dropped low, dragging heat across the sidewalk. I stepped out without rushing. Didn't button my coat. Didn't hide my hands. Didn't look back. I stepped into the room as they were pouring wine. The table was long glass covered in leather folders and open contracts. A man in a pale blue suit shook hands with my son. Cameras flashed. Pens clicked open. Everything smelled like ink and ego. I said nothing. Sat in the back row. The room settled. The notary cleared his throat. Final signatures. My son smiled, lifted the pen. Then the speakers crackled. One voice. His. She doesn't need to know. Just get the signature and we're done with her. Then silence. No one moved. The pen slipped halfway through his grip. His wife looked at him like she hadn't heard that sentence before, but I knew she had. The buyer lowered his glass. The assistant's hand hovered over the record button. The notary glanced at me. I stood, Walked forward. No announcement, no preamble. I placed the legal injunction on the table. Stamped. Signed. Dated. Effective immediately. I didn't look at anyone else. Just him. He didn't say a word, just stared at the document. The pen rolled from his hand. One of the staff leaned toward the buyer and whispered, "She owns the account." I turned. Walked out. Didn't wait to see who followed. I revoked the access at noon. One login. One line of code. One document uploaded through the secure portal. By 2 o'clock, the notice went out. Property access suspended. Bank privileges revoked. Legal counsel notified. I didn't wait for confirmation. I didn't need it. The phone rang. Once. Then again. I let it ring. On the third attempt, I turned it over, face down on the bed. The vibration moved through the mattress, then stopped. An email arrived. Subject line, "Please." I opened it. Read each word. Once. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Please reconsider. We need access to the Dubai account. It's urgent." They still thought this was about money. I marked it unread, closed the laptop, folded the screen slowly like something fragile. Outside the window, the sky was beginning to dim. Heat hung low but fading. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I sat on the edge of the bed, let my hands rest on my knees. They had sent me into a foreign country with no wallet, no phone, no name. And now they wanted a key. I turned off the light. Let the room settle into stillness. I placed the tray down. Steam rose from the brass pot, slow and curling. The scent of roasted beans settled into the air. Familiar, unbothered. I lifted the pot, tilted it gently over the rim of my cup. The first drop didn't spill, not on the tray, not on the saucer, not on my hands. I held the cup with both palms. Steady, warm, no sound but the sea below, brushing the rocks in soft repetition. No messages, no calls, nothing needing an answer. I took a sip. In front of me, the morning opened wide. The horizon stayed still. Next to the tray folded clean was a white envelope. Not handwritten. Labeled in print in case they try again. I didn't touch it. Just sat beside it. There would always be another attempt. Another plan. Another mask. But the space between who they thought I was and who I had become no longer needed to be defended. I sat back. Let the breeze run across my collar. Watched a gull drop low and rise again. Then, after a long breath, I reached for the envelope. Placed it in the drawer. Closed it. Gently.